Welcome to Frickety Frack. We do talk back. Thank you for joining me in this episode. My name is Patrick and I'm Frack. Frickety Frack, We Do Talk Back is a show where I discuss different aspects of fandom and relate them to the gospel. So we are going through Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War, one episode at a time, looking at the events of the episode, reviewing it, and then connecting it to different lessons in the Bible. So I'm going to go through 1,000-Year Blood War, this part, the separation arc, in 1,000-Year Blood War, and then when that part is over, I might go in a different direction, look at different anime or different comics or something like that. And so we'll see where we go after that. So the name of the show came from my dad, who dubbed my brother and me Frick and Frack since we were kids. So we're going to be covering the episode Peace from Shadows of the Bleach of the 1,000-Year Blood War. This is the second episode of part 2 of the story arc, The Separation. It's also the 15th episode overall of the 1,000-Year Blood War. And so in this episode, it's taking place right after the events of the previous week's episode. The Vandenreich has come into the Soul Society, and so we get a little bit of history and just a little bit of explanation about how that happened from Yawaba. And then also you get to see members of the Sternritter coming into different areas to go after different aspects of the Soul Society. We get to see Mayuri's completely ridiculous outfit, along with Nemu's that is this bright shining light, because he realized that shadows are a problem. So I need to go to a place where there are no shadows. And so part of his outfit was designed to do that. So it was just very ridiculous looking, and he's fine with it. He's like, I don't care what other people think. And so very great to see that. But what I really loved is seeing the work that Hitsugaya and Rangiku had done, and the teamwork that they were doing in their work against Bazb. And so before I get into that more, I did love that they took the time to show the Soldat, which are the nameless extra slash and background characters that as Kachan would describe them from My Hero Academia. They're worthless. They're just cannon fodder, really, on both sides, the Soul Reapers and the Soldat. And I love that they did take the moment to show that they are fighting that. It's not just the main characters that everyone knows, like Hitsugaya, Ichigo, Renji, those kind of things, where most of the fighting usually takes place centered around those characters that we all know. And so I like that they showed that just a little bit. And so then we get the main focus of this episode and events focuses around the fight between Hitsugaya and Bazb. Hitsugaya has ice powers, and Bazb, his letter is H, which stands for heat, so he has fire powers. And so this is an interesting fight, because this is kind of a normal thing that we would see in shonen anime, that they would pit the polar opposites against each other in a fight. And so what I really love is Hitsugaya is weaker, since he no longer has his Bankai, and he is in need of Rangiku's help because his ice isn't strong enough on its own. And so this is a very different Hitsugaya from the fake Karakura Town fight, where he's very confident and is powerful and is very much regularly on the offensive against the Espadas, against Aizen. But this Hitsugaya is using his powers more for delaying tactics, so that others can flee and escape and get somewhere else to either regroup or or just be able to get away. And so he also feels more confident a little bit more with his Shikai release, because he's had to practice with it more, because since he had grown and been able to use his Bankai for so long, he realized that he needed to really work on his regular swordsmanship and also just his Shikai release. And so it was just a really great fight. I know there's a lot of delaying tactics and things like that, but it was great to see this growth in him, even in just the short amount of time from when his Bankai was stolen to now and his training. And we'll get to the other part of this episode as well. And so that comes with the biblical theme. So the biblical theme comes from John chapter 15, verse 13. And this is what it says. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. And so this comes from Omaida. And, you know, Omaida is this big oafish, he's the lieutenant of the 2nd Division. And the 2nd Division, if you do not know from Bleach, is the stealth force. They're the ones who do sneaky stuff. And so he is, when you look at him, you're kind of like, he's in the stealth squad? But anyways, when we first really get to see Omaida a lot is during the Fate Karakura Town fight. He shows up in other things, but he's just, you know, he doesn't get a lot of focus. He gets a lot of focus in the Fate Karakura Town fight, and so he comes off as this oafish, clumsy, cowardly person. Now he does play it up quite a bit to have his enemies underestimate him, but there is some truth to it too. Like he does come through for Soifan, his captain in the Fate Karakura Town fight, but he really didn't want to be relied on. You know, he's kind of like, you know, I don't want to be here. I just, you know, he probably, as a member of a noble family in the Soul Society, he just kind of wanted the privilege and power that comes from being the lieutenant, and didn't really want to have to do anything. But here we see a very different side of Omaida. So he's talking to his little sister, and he sings like, you know what, you don't have to be worried about those Quincy's, you know, the Sternritter, you know, everything that's going on, because, you know, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fight, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for my family. I'm going to fight for my fellow Soul Reapers. I'm going to fight for the Soul Society. Don't you worry about me. And so this is one of the great things, this true to his actual character. Like, he puts on a show for everyone else, but this is who he truly is, the one that he is with his little sister. And so Soifan, he gets questioned by BG9, who had stolen Soifan's Bankai, and Soifan ends up coming to Omaida's aid and helps fight him, and it's a good little fight, and I really do enjoy that. But that's what I love about Omaida is that his character has changed. He's grown past his laziness, his oafishness, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to be a protector. And so for us as Christians, we're in that similar vein where we are called to, as Jesus put it, greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. As Christians, we're supposed to live a sacrificial life. Now, what that means is that it's not necessarily mean that we need to go and give everything up for other people, but ultimately that is our goal. We have to put aside what our desires are, but ultimately decide what Jesus would want us to do and follow Jesus's path. So I want to encourage you that as you grow into your life as a follower of Jesus Christ, to remember that we are called to give up our own desires and to follow Christ. Now, but ultimately, that desire to give up what we have to follow Jesus, and as we grow as followers of Jesus, what we desire is going to line up more and more with what Christ desires for us. So I want to encourage you in that, to make sure that your desires line up with Christ. All right, so let's rate this episode. Well, it was a really good episode, and the talking in the fight was good. There weren't a lot of there wasn't as much, unfortunately, in shonen anime and shonen manga, when people square off and fight, there can be a lot of moments where the fighting will stop so they can posture at each other, and it's just kind of, really, you're taking this time to do that? And it just kind of can get kind of annoying and be like, if you were fighting right now while the other person was posturing, you'd probably be able to win and take him out. But no, you gotta, posture at each other. So they didn't really do that as much. And so I liked that. But they still did it a little bit. So I'm going to give this episode a 4.5. That is almost perfect. Just a slight room for improvement, but it's still really, really, really good. And it's setting up much more great action to come. And the episode's great. So I would recommend watching this episode for others. I wouldn't turn anyone away from it. It's really good. All right, so anyone with questions for us about the biblical lessons that I talked about in this episode, or other discussion ranging from anime, comics, or just anything in general, feel free to email me at frickityfractalkback@gmail.com, or reach out to me on Twitter at frickityf, or at frickityfrac on Instagram and Facebook. Please rate, review, and subscribe, all that fun stuff. Also, if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below if you're watching this on YouTube. And I'll do my best to answer them as I see the notifications for them. And also, if it's a really good question, I will put it in the next episode. So remember that I love you, most importantly, that God loves you. And so go release your Bankai.